Battle for the Grid is pretty much synonymous with long and deadly combos. The average combo in Grid lasts longer than 30 to 45 seconds and can still be even longer. So it might surprise some of you to know that Battle for the Grid actually has a juggle limit. Now, I'm sure somebody is going to go on and say that clearly the game is broken since the juggle limit is broken and combos seem endless and result in death. Maybe something about like 98% of the players agreeing, I don't really know. But this isn't unintentional. In this video, I will go over 3 things. 1. What is the juggle limit? 2. What affects the juggle limit? And 3. Getting past the juggle limit. Now, let's go dissect this feature and explain how players bypass it and get the so-called unintentional mechanic known as Touch of Deaths. The name should be rather self-explanatory, but the juggle limit is a limit set in place to keep your combo from going on endlessly. You can see this bar in training mode where it increases as your combo goes on. This bar starts as soon as you hit your opponent and continues as your combo persists. While the enemy is being comboed, it passively goes up, while increasing more with certain moves. But we'll go more into detail on that in a minute. When the bar maxes out and you hit the opponent, it will spin them out in the same manner as a 5L reset, effectively ending your combo. Now that we've gone over what it is, let's go over what it affects. Most moves will increase the juggle limit during a combo, though this differs depending on the move. In most, if not all cases, heavies add more than mediums, which will also add more than lights. Crouching moves also add much less than standing moves. And yes, jumping moves also add to the limit. Some moves have special attributes that spin an opponent out early. The most obvious is 5L, which on an airborne opponent will spin them out. This is primarily used for resets. True L also has a special attribute that will break an opponent out of a combo. When used 4 times in a combo, the 4th one will spin the opponent out. I guess they didn't want combos to look like this, and personally I can't really blame them. Note that this does not go into effect if they are used on a grounded opponent. Launchers also have this kind of effect. When used 3 times, the 3rd launcher will still launch the opponent, but they will be completely invincible on the way down, unlike the other 2 examples which just spin them out. This also applies to reverse launchers. This is technically less effective than a spin out reset due to the fact that there's less of an opportunity to follow up after it. Certain moves that cause a spinning knockdown, usually things like heavies and specials, when used 3 times will automatically spin the opponent out. Some of these includes Dog's 2H, Eric's 5H, and RJ's 5S, and a few more. There, however, are exceptions to this rule, such as Eric 5S. The capture state also follows this rule, where after 3 uses, it spins the opponents out. These are pretty rare though, as only certain characters have it. What is more rare, however, is Udana's freeze status, which is a special kind of capture state. Yes, it's a special state for a special state. After freezing the opponent twice, the opponent will spin out after a delay. But it's kinda nasty for resets, so is it really a bad thing? But to summarize, moves increase the juggle limit, some increase it faster, and some just end the combo. But what if I told you there were moves that didn't add anything? Or better yet, what if I told you there were moves that just flat out ignored it? Now, most moves affect the juggle limit, but there are a good amount of outliers. Moves with special attributes and some other types of attacks ignore the juggle limit and can be used after the limit has been exceeded to continue your combo. Now, what do I mean when I say special attributes? Think of it as a bonus effect on a move, where when you hit them, it not only hits the opponent, but it also puts them in a special sort of state. These include wall bounces. The name should be pretty self-explanatory, but it means the move bounces the opponent off the wall. This is what I mean when I say the move puts them into a special state. Because of this, moves that wall bounce ignore the juggle limit and can keep your combo going afterwards. There is also a reverse wall bounce, and it follows the same rules as a normal wall bounce. Any wall bounce after the first will instead result in a hard knockdown. Speaking of which, a hard knockdown is when the opponent skids across the floor for a decent amount of time. This can be followed up with an OTG, which also ignores the juggle limit. An OTG is a move that hits the opponent while the opponent is on the ground, which is where its name comes from. Bear in mind that just because your opponent is lying down does not mean they are in a state where they can be OTG'd. For the most part, the first OTG will bounce them up considerably high, while the following OTG will bounce them far lower. For some characters this doesn't matter, but for others you will have to keep this in mind. And even though it technically doesn't put your opponent into a special state, it still ignores the juggle limit. Note that this rule does have exceptions, but most will ignore it, which is why I'm discussing it here. Ground bounce, similar to a wall bounce, will, get this, bounce your opponents off the ground. Crazy, I know. It's a pretty simple way of extending your combo. Any following ground bounce will just end your combo. Not in the same manner as what we talked about before, it just ends it. If you use a ground bounce while the opponent is grounded, however, you can hit it up to 3 times instead of 2. Launchers also ignore the juggle limit. Even though a third launcher will end your combo, the first 2 can be used after it's been maxed out. There are also reverse launchers, which follow the exact same rules. Some moves stagger, which also forces standing and lets you continue your combo. A second stagger will cause hard knockdown. Something important about stagger forcing the opponent to stand means that you can gain a longer combo. Why? Because the juggle limit applies while the opponent is in a juggle or air combo state. On the ground, you can combo them as much as you want. Of course, as soon as your opponent leaves the ground and you hit them, they will spin out. But when you stagger them, it gives you the opportunity to extend your combo or go for some crazy stuff like plinks. Oh, and the Atom Infinite, that's also a thing. Crumple is the state where the opponent slowly falls down. If you hit them early enough, they will be standing, but if you don't, it just puts them into a mid-air juggle state. Some moves have different effects when you hit them in the air, but regardless, a second one will instead cause hard knockdown. There are also some more rare, more character-specific statuses like capture and freeze, with rules we have gone over earlier. A select few characters have what is called a capture, which will stun an opponent mid-air. You can do this 3 times with the third one spinning them out just like others. Note that capture can be interesting, to say the least, with happy birthdays, specifically with Eric, where 2 states will be used during a happy birthday. To my knowledge, this is an Eric exclusive thing, which really begs the question of why? And, as stated before, Udana has a freeze status which can be used 2 times before resetting the opponent. Some moves that don't put you in a special state but still ignore the juggle limit includes multi-hits, specifically all hits before the final hit. Canceling out of the multi-hit before the final hit of said attack will not spin the opponent out. For example, RJ's 5L is 2 hits, but if you only hit the opponent with the first hit, it will not spin them out. As stated earlier, if your opponent is on the ground, your combo will ignore the juggle limit until you knock them off their feet. However, there are still exceptions to this rule. All throws, specials, EXs, supers, swap strikes, assists, and Zord attacks ignore the juggle limit. Something else of note are assists or Zords that have special statuses. Take Dog's Assist for example. Dog's Assist contains a ground bounce. If you use it earlier in a combo, you will lose your ground bounce. However, if you use it after a ground bounce with your character, it will still ground pounce. This also applies to assists and Zords with wall bounces, launches, etc. There are still a few special exceptions like Rita's 2M mini reverse launcher and a few others, but these are the main tools to extend past the juggle limit and potentially pull off combos that lead into death. Just to show you the different results from understanding these mechanics, here is a combo without trying to go past the juggle limit.
I saw SPD emergency. Shadow Saber. Justice served. I call it justice.
Now here is some absolute baloney where I just go ham on a combo so long you won't see it in an actual game.
I need more quantum power.
Shadow Ranger. Is this upper? You have lost this. Shadow Slash. Alright, Cydia. Alright, Cydia. Shadow Defender of the Galaxy. Shadow Saber. Justice served. Slash! Slash! Alright, Cydia!
Quantum defender. Formation sword! Formation sword! I need more quantum power. Finish sequence. Oh, guys, you got me.
These combos aren't necessarily difficult once you understand them, they just take time to master. Each character has a really unique toolkit that you can explore and improve on. Even to this date, people are still optimizing combos or trying new setups. This is not a game-breaking bug devs can't fix. This isn't a game that requires something like burst. And this definitely is not a game that needs to limit a player's combo ability. If you want a game with a more strict, or with a more, I guess, defined juggle system, there are plenty of fighting games you could find that do just that. But simplifying a game like Grid by limiting combo ability isn't helping new players. It's just really taking away from the overall depth of Grid. Grid's juggle state and combo ability is one of its best features, allowing for a lot of creativity and freeform gameplay that I feel a lot of games are missing nowadays. Not to say those are bad games by any means, but it's something Grid has that makes the game what it is. Don't take for granted the gift, so to say, that these combos are for Grid. If you don't like them, it's probably just because the game isn't for you. But for everyone else, it enhances the gameplay and just makes it an overall blast to explore. This isn't a bug, this is an intended feature.